While this account has more holes in it than a leaky roof, Tabari shares another take on Islam's excuse.
Amr went up to the roof to roll the stone. News of this came to the prophet from heaven. He got up as though he wished to relieve himself. His companions waited for him, but he was gone for a long time. The Jews began to say, "What has delayed Abu al-Qasim?" Muhammad's companions left, and Kinana said, "News of what you intended has reached him."
This justification is essential for Islam. It serves to excuse grotesque barbarism, grand larceny, and ultimately genocide. Yet it was Mohammed who had come to the Nadir to beg for blood money to excuse a double homicide. That does not bode well for their credibility.
Ishaq. The prophet went back to his home. When his companions thought that he had been gone a long time, they got up to look for him. On the way they told a man the story of the treachery intended by the Jews and ordered them to get ready to fight and march against them.
Since Mohammed had run away without telling his gang anything, how did they know this?
Tabari. When the messenger's companions returned, they found him sitting in the mosque. They said, "O prophet, we waited for you, but you did not come back." "The Jews intended to kill me," he replied, "and Allah informed me of it."
One rock to another, I suppose.
"Call Muhammad bin Maslama to me." When Muhammad came, he was told to go to the Jews and say, "Leave my country. You have intended treachery." He went and said, "The messenger orders you to depart from his country." They replied, "We never thought that an Oz would come with such a message." "Hearts have changed," Muhammad said. "Islam has wiped out our old covenants."
This is a stinging indictment. First, these hadiths are contradictory. While conflicting scripture is common for Islam, this time it's being used to justify a hideously immoral act. Second, Mohammed, the bad boy who had been banished from Mecca for reneging on the Quraysh bargain and for threatening to slaughter his kin, was now claiming that Yathrib was his country. It wasn't Allah's, it wasn't Islam's, it was his. Further, without any actual provocation, he ordered established families, thousands of them, from their homes because he wanted their property and their money. The most incriminating lines were saved for last.
"Hearts have changed. Islam has wiped out our old covenants."
Mohammed's religious doctrine was corrosive, more dangerous than Mein Kampf. Anyone who trusts it is ruined, as is everyone around them. Today's terrorists have not corrupted their religion. Islam has corrupted them. There will be no peace until this false, intolerant, and violent doctrine is expunged from the earth.
Tabari and Ishaq. After telling his companions about the treachery which the Jews had meditated against him, the apostle ordered them to prepare for war and to march against them.
To meditate is to quietly engage in thought or contemplation. If this is true, the Jews had said nothing and they had done nothing. If it's not true, Islam's prophet is a liar. Either way, Mohammed was totally unjustified in ordering his militants to attack. The siege of the Nadir was an act of terrorism and an act of piracy, proving that the founder of Islam was a vicious criminal.
Tabari and Ishaq. Muhammad personally led his men against the Nadir and halted in their quarter. The Jews took refuge against them in their homes, so he ordered their date palms to be cut down and burnt. They shouted, "Muhammad, you have forbidden wanton destruction of property and have blamed those who have perpetrated it. Why are you doing this?"
Mohammed didn't want to answer the question directly. He delegated the excuse to his God. A situational scripture authorizing destruction was handed down.
Quran 59 verse 5. "The palm trees you cut down or left standing intact was by Allah's dispensation, so that he might disgrace the transgressors."
I'll let you decide if the creator of the universe etched this line on an eternal tablet before the world was created, or if Mohammed just made it up. But you should know that the 59th surah was revealed following the banishment of the Qaynuqa Jews the prior year. And yet the verse's authorization was recited in past tense. Also, the obliteration of the date farm disgraced the transgressors only in the sense that Muhammad was the transgressor. Muslims confiscated the very groves he was destroying. Waqidi writes,
Tabari and Ishaq. Abdallah bin Ubay sent a message to the Nadir saying, Stand firm, I have 2,000 Bedouin men who are united around me. Stay, and they will battle with you, as will the Qurayza. However, Salam, a Qurayza Jew, said, We shall not break our compact as long as I am alive. We are eminent among the Jewish people by virtue of our wealth. Continuing to speak to the Nadir Jews, the Qurayza leader said, Accept what Muhammad has proposed before you have to accept what is worse. What could be worse? Huyay, the Nadir chief, asked. The seizure of your wealth, the enslavement of your children, and the killing of your men. The Qurayza Jew replied. Huyay refused to accept his advice. He told a Muslim courier, We will not leave our homes and farms, so do what you see fit.
How bizarre! A man named Slave to Allah rallied to the aid of the Jews against the Muslims. But it's the Qurayza response that is foreboding. They were the largest community in Yathrib. By capitulating to the tyrant, by sacrificing their brethren, they doomed themselves to the very fate they feared. They were soon plundered, raped, sold into slavery, and murdered. This should be a haunting warning to the West, and particularly to the Israelis. Divided as they are now, with many willing to appease Islamic tyrants and trade land in the hopes of retaining their treasure, they will lose everything. As we continue with this horrific tale, consider the implications of the following hadith in the context of Allah being either a pagan idol or Satan.
The messenger magnified Allah, and the Muslims magnified Allah with him.
This means they yelled, Allahu Akbar, Allah is greater or greatest.
So Allah cast terror into the hearts of the Jews. Then the prophet said, The Jews have declared war.
According to their lying prophet, the Jews had declared war, and yet they never wielded a sword or shot an arrow. They were simply besieged, starved into submission.
Tabari. Juday went to Abdallah bin Ubay to ask for support. He said, I found him sitting among a number of his companions while the prophet's crier was calling men to arms. He said, This is a clever trick of Muhammad's.
Yes, indeed. The profitable prophet plan was about to benefit from another
clever trick.
If mugging a jogger in Central Park is clever, this was downright brilliant.
The messenger of Allah besieged the Nadir Jews for 15 days. In the end, they made peace with him on the condition that the prophet would not kill them and that their property and their coats of mail would be his.
They were forced to make peace, Islamic style. The false prophet said, You give me your property, and I will allow you to live. But of course our profiteer acted with Allah's blessing, making him an apostle and terror religious. If, after reading these words, you believe that Muhammad, the instigator and perpetrator of this heinous crime, was a conduit to God, you are as lost as he was. If you believe that Islam was conceived as a tolerant and peaceful religion to save men's souls, you are sadly mistaken. For non-Muslims, I trust that you find these words sobering. The negative implications associated with our continued ignorance of Islam are staggering. This is not merely a history lesson. Muhammad claimed that he had spiritual authority for all of this barbarism. He started a religion to justify his atrocities and to perpetrate others. That makes Islam the most evil dogma ever conceived, and also the most dangerous.